Our next presenter is Cristian Sánchez, immigration attorney. Cristian Sánchez, originally from the Rio Grande Valley. Where's RGV? I'm telling you. He is the Economic Justice Director at the Texas Immigration Law Council, where he leads a fellowship program developing community justice workers. Previously, he supervised a team of attorneys at RAICES defending immigrants from deportation and established emergency shelters for LGBTQ plus asylum seekers in Tijuana and San Antonio. Cristian also serves as board chair for the Pride Center in San Antonio. Let's give it a round of applause for this hardworking person.
All right, I've got 6 minutes and 20 seconds to teach you immigration law. Are you ready? Let's start at the top left. I joke, but when people find out that I'm an immigration attorney, what they want are answers that explain the painful and confusing things they see on the news. Even more now, as the ways we advocate for clients are under imminent threat, and there's a global movement to vilify immigrants. Since I can't explain immigration law to you, I want to tell you a story, one that might shed light on how to find solutions to some of these new problems. This story ends with 2 transgender asylum seekers, Marissa and Natalia. There they are. Nervous and apprehensive, clinging to each other at the edge of the San Antonio Pride Parade. They'd just gotten out of immigrant detention 10 days earlier, and I was the one who brought them here. And I was suddenly wondering if I had made a huge mistake. Marissa and Natalia had fled Central America to save their lives. They'd faced violence, harassment, persecution just for being trans. Where they were from, being visible meant being in danger. They fled to save their lives, going through a dangerous journey to the US, and they ending up in Tijuana. In 2018, I went to Tijuana to meet with a group of LGBTQ asylum seekers, about 200 queer and trans folks who were there to assert their legal asylum claims. They had formed a group called La Comunidad together so they could protect each other and find community. At the time, you had to put your name down in this book called the Asylum Metering Book, so wait to be called so you could cross and assert your legal asylum claim. Here is the group registering. But now they had to wait, and they had to survive that wait. This group was vulnerable, so a group of advocates created a shelter for them. This is when I first spoke to Marissa and Natalia. And like others, they had stories of trauma that stretched back years. Yet I knew that their quest for safety was far from over. Slowly, people started getting called to cross the border and assert their legal asylum claim. At the end of 2018, I was informed that ICE detained all of the trans women from that group together in one place, about 100 of them, in one segregated pod at the South Texas Detention Complex, which happens to be right outside San Antonio, right in my backyard. That was ICE's first mistake. Because now they had to deal with me. But the challenge was massive. Immigration court is cruel. The law is stacked against you. In order to win, you have to tell the story of the worst day of your life before a judge who is skeptical and an ICE attorney who is trying to destroy your case. In between court appearances, conditions in the center are bleak and dehumanizing. These guards were cruel and purposely misgendered the women. But the women themselves persevered and protected each other. And as you can see in the byline or the subheader, they even held a drag show to fight the dread. I wish I was there for that. I knew I couldn't represent all 100 women myself, so I built a project to do it. I brought in pro bono attorneys and coordinated the project along with some other advocates. These women needed fierce legal help and someone they could trust. And because I'm queer myself, I had an in. We came from different worlds and life experiences, but we connected. Queer people know how to find each other in hard places. I earned their trust and fought for them, and eventually, some started to win their cases. I can't tell you what it felt like to see them walk free. Unlike our other clients who typically had family in the United States that they could stay with if they got on their feet, this group was specifically rejected by their families, and so they had nowhere to go. So what did I do? I opened a temporary shelter in San Antonio to house them, while me and other advocates found them permanent housing elsewhere. Fleeing persecution, court, detention, these women were exhausted, but in the shelter we gave them a soft landing. People who cared, the space to wear the clothes and makeup that they wanted, finally. It was messy and beautiful and hard. In this photo, one woman had been released a month earlier and her best friend was also released, so they're getting reunited. In this photo, they celebrated my birthday by making some signs. Sometimes they cried and I just sit with them. Sometimes we put on music and danced. Sometimes we talked about heartbreak and queerness and the future that they envisioned. I saw parts of myself in their story too. And so back to Pride. Marissa turns to me, totally serious, and whispers, "Are the gays in the US always this loud?" I was like, yeah, we are. Welcome to the party. They'd never seen so many queer people openly celebrating who they were. It was overwhelming, but as we marched, I could see their shoulders start to relax. They began to smile. They even held the HRC banner. This moment, this joy was a revolution, and I could see healing occurring. It was amazing. It made me think about how for a long time I left my queerness at the door. Law school, courtrooms, it didn't feel safe to fully be myself in some of these spaces. But these women helped me reclaim that. In order to advocate for themselves, in order for me to advocate for them, they needed me to be my whole self. And I realized I needed that too. The systems are getting tougher. The rules are changing. But that doesn't mean we stop. It means we evolve. We create community, we stay creative. We find innovative strategies for new problems. We bring our whole intersectional selves to the fight. So no, I can't explain immigration law to you in 6 minutes and 20 seconds. But I can tell you this, bring your full self to the work. Let it move you, because that's how we win and that's how we heal.
I so love you. Thank you for sharing that. It was really great, and I loved seeing all of your pictures. I know that I had read it beforehand, but to see the pictures just really brought it to life. So thank you for sharing that.
Appreciate it.
So you mentioned a really important thing that laws are getting stricter, tighter,
Yeah.
and we need to evolve.
Yes, we do. Yeah.
Can you expand on those innovative strategies?
Yes. One that I'm currently working on is to, what I would often find with my immigrant clients is that they needed some sort of civil legal help besides just maybe a green card or status. They needed a domestic order, a protective order from domestic violence, or they needed help in like an eviction case. And so right now at this new organization I'm at, I'm leading a project that's taking advantage of new laws that are going to allow some non-attorneys to do civil legal representation. And so there's a lot of barriers there, but we're going to work through it because I think that as a field, in the legal field, we've spent decades trying to pump out more attorneys, and that hasn't helped. That hasn't, there's still 90% of people don't get help for their civil legal problems because they can't afford it. And so this is actually a way to meet that need that is a new, strategic, innovative way of thinking.
That is so incredible. I'm so glad we're doing that. It's a lot of work, but it's one of those little glimmers, you know, that we need to hear through the dark.
Yeah.
So thank you for sharing that.
Yeah.
Awesome. All right. Well, let's give it up for Cristian Sánchez.